Hi, I'm Bea from Bea Kind. This video is part of a series of tutorials to accompany our range of fun and planet-friendly sewing and embroidery kits. So I'm going to be showing you in this video how to do a backstitch, and this is used on quite a lot of animals. It just gives a nice continuous line. So this is backstitch on the mouth here, and all these spots I've got my giraffe here are sewn with a backstitch too. So I'm just going to start on a scrap piece of felt to show you how it's done, and I'm just going to do a straight line to start with. So I've got my thread prepared, I've tied a knot in the end of the needle, and I'm bringing the needle up from the inside of the felt. So this is the wrong side, the side that you're not going to see when the animal's finished, and I'm just going to make a stitch the length I want it. So I'll do quite big ones for this so it's clear. So now that I've made my stitch, what I want to do is I'm going to bring the needle up again from the wrong side of the felt at the point where I want the next stitch to end. So if I pull that through, I'm then going to go backwards into the point where the previous stitch finished, like so. And that's just how you do it. So let's do the next stitch. I'm going to bring the needle up where I want the stitch to finish and bring it back through at the point where the previous stitch ended. And it's just creating a lovely continual line, which is really good for adding details. And you can make your stitches smaller or bigger depending on the detail you're doing. So let's say I'm doing a little circle, I'm going to do a really little stitch and just do exactly the same. Bring the needle up where the next stitch will end, and that will allow me to create a curve as I've just kept the stitches nice and small. Like so. So if I just show you now my giraffe, I've got my Gloria here, and this detail here, the mouth, is done with a backstitch. So I'm just going to do that on my giraffe that I've got in progress. I'm going to prepare my thread by tying a knot, and I'm going to make my starting stitch. Like so, which is where I want my stitching to start. Make a stitch the length I want it, and this mouth detail is quite small, so I'm going to do it with nice little stitches. So just doing the same as I showed you on the example, making little stitches, bringing the needle up from the point I want the stitch to end, and bringing it back through at the point where the previous stitch finished. So I'm just making my mouth here. Like so. There's one side done. And I'm just going to do the other side the same. So starting my stitch where I want it to finish and pushing it back through at the point where the previous one finished. That's my mouth done. So now I can just finish the thread. Cut it, and it's done. So I'm just going to show you a back stitch on another area now. So these spots which are attached to the giraffe, these are all backstitch, but they've just been done with one strand of thread instead of two, so it's a thinner line. And if you're unsure about separating the strands, they're all listed in your stitch diagram, which will be included in the kit, and there is a separate video on how to do this if you're unsure. So I've got my spots here that I've cut out, ready to go. And I've got my needle, which is ready to go. I've tied a knot in the end. And I'm just going to place my spot where I want it. I'm going to use my diagram as a reference. So put it roughly here. And I'm going to bring up the needle, as I have been doing, from the wrong side of the felt and then not secured it. And because I'm attaching something, I'm bringing it up through both layers of felt this time. And I'm just going to make the stitch the length I want it. And because it will be curved going around the spot, I'm going to make quite small stitches this time. And then again, bringing the needle up through at the point where you want the next stitch to finish, and taking it back down through the point where the previous one ended. And I'm just going to go all the way around like that to attach the spot. And now that I'm nearly finished, I'm going to bring the needle up where I started my stitching, because that's where I want the stitching to end, so it's a continuous line, and then just take it down at the previous stitch where that finished, and that's one spot done. So I'm just going to do the rest of them now. And that's ready to go. So that's how you do a back stitch.